questions, or we're just you're happy to dive in? I don't need to do any of the intro or anything with you because you know it all.
Well, we'll see.
Good. Okay. Well, if it's not too awkward, just start off with an introduction of you and your role.
Yeah. So I'm Kate Green, Travel Safe Partnership Manager for Transport for Greater Manchester. Been in this role for 6 years, I think.
All right.
And across those 6 years, we've had some quite positive but quite significant changes in terms of the partnership, how it's run, how it's comprised, the partners, how it all works, etc.
And just to kick off, what's your impressions of the current state of public transport safety in Greater Manchester? Give us your take now.
I'll give you some stats.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So there's about 4 million journeys made on bus and tram.
Wow. Okay.
Every month, and actually incidents are relatively rare. Doesn't mean everything's okay, because it's not, and we've got some significant issues around youth in particular and social behaviour. Some of which we've always had and we always will have. There'll always be a core of that kind of stuff. It's been around, I used to hang around on bus stations, when I was younger. But since we came out of COVID, and I think probably looking at a lot of things that shut during COVID and didn't reopen, we've seen quite a significant uplift. So way over 50% of our incidents are youth related.
Okay.
The other issue we've got is around perceptions. So I think if I was to pin my hat to something, I would say travelling on public transport is safer than people think it is.
Right.
But that's a really difficult issue, obviously, because we can deal with the incidents. We don't want the incidents to happen, but we can deal with the incidents, and we do. We've got really good systems in place, but the perceptions bit is harder.
Yeah.
So I think overall, but again, it's difficult for me, isn't it? Because I sit in a weird place in this, so my understanding of it is different to yours or anybody else's because of the kind of silo bubble that I exist in.
Okay.
But yeah, the majority of journeys, the vast majority of journeys go without any incident.
And just lifting your head up a bit, could you compare the setup in Greater Manchester anywhere else? How does it stack up against other big urban areas, cities across the UK?
We're better, obviously. Okay. No, I mean, I think we're loosely comparable to London in terms of what we've got, but it is loosely comparable. I would say our model, I'm going to say this, aren't I? So it sounds a bit obnoxious. I'd say our model is an exemplar, and we certainly do have the likes of, I had a conversation with Merseytravel yesterday. They want to know how we do what we do.
Yeah.
Transport for West Mids have adopted a lot of our kind of governance structures and our rigour.
Yeah.
But we work really closely with the others. Yeah. We've got an urban transport group focused on safety and security. So we do share good practice and things like that. The other thing we've got to balance in this is that we are better resourced.
Yeah.
As well. So we've benefited from, and in the main, CFGM funding actually, because we don't get external funding.
No.
But we are quite well funded to deliver what we deliver. If we didn't have that funding, which some of the others don't, then we will be in that position. But I think the pendulum's swinging, and really the pendulum's swinging because of bus franchising, because everyone's looking at taking over bus.
Yeah.
Everyone's now saying, well, suddenly we're responsible then for that safety aspect.
Yeah.
But no, I think, and this is the bit where I want you to help really, because I think we're pretty good at what we do, and I think we're pretty good at kind of constantly trying to improve what we do, but we need to put some structure around that now, because particularly around our educational offer, it's just grown arms and legs.
Yeah.
and there's got to be some thought around how we prioritise it, where we focus at. When we can't do everything, then what is it that we focus on? And then the wider bit around aligning to GM generally.
Yeah.
We would like to be recognised as a community safety partnership. Now, we won't be recognised as a community safety partnership in legislation because we don't have the powers. That's a district council remit. But the way we work and the contributions we make mean that if we are recognised in that way, it means we can attract funding ultimately.
Yeah.
But it also gives us credibility. So I think very much when I took this on, we didn't have any credibility. Nobody knew the brand.
Yeah.
We were just the transport bit, and we've worked really hard to become embedded into the formal structures, the legislative structures, which has been really positive. I think we need to build on that. Again, it not is lacking in structure, but it could do with a bit more direction, I guess.
Okay. Right, let's dive into passenger perceptions then for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, from your perspective, what are you saying the main factors are that influence how safe or unsafe passengers feel when they're on the network?
When we do survey, etc., mm-hmm. the surprising thing I think most of us find is that it's non-public, because we obviously we ask people what modes of transport they use, age, demographic, location, whatever. It's always non-public transport users that report that they don't feel safe to use public transport, which then makes you think it is the external factors that are playing into this. So we aren't well liked by the Manchester Evening News. They do love to run a transport piece, and we struggle to counter some of the narratives in that. So, for instance, a couple of years ago, they ran a story about, I think it was a knife that had been recovered as part of one of our operations. And it was this whole dramatic, knives on the public transport network, etc. And actually, it was a good news story. We'd done a proactive operation. Someone had been stopped, searched, knife, dealt with, done, and actually would you feel better knowing that that's been resolved than us not saying it? So it's that balance of when we put social media out, and the police a lot of times will put a picture. So they go, "We've recovered this zombie knife on the tram," and we think that's a good thing. But when you read that, you go, "Oh my God, that zombie knife was on a tram." Yeah. So it's the balance. And we do, we've had the MEN redact pieces where they've misreported stuff, but no one reads it, do they? Because it just goes in as a... When we get to the good news, when someone's been apprehended, when an incident's been dealt with, they don't run that. And we try, we put press releases out, and it's just not as attractive as a news piece as the dramatic, crime is up by 75% on the transport network, which is the stat they're playing with at the moment. And actually, we're saying, figures-wise, it might look like that, but we've got an extra 100 staff out. So incident reports are going to go up. We've got 100 staff out. It didn't, so that, I think that plays into a lot of the perceptions piece, because people have got that, scroll through Facebook, the MEN, headline, they might not even read the news piece, headline, 50 knives found on a tram, and then suddenly that's in your brain, isn't it? So it's how... Yeah,
so just talk us, the media will shape perceptions, no doubt. Just so I understand, who's managing that relationship? Do you have a press team or a press office that you do?
So I've got quite a substantial team that support me. So I've got a marketing lead, I've got a PR lead.
It's all in-house, is it?
It's all in-house. It's the marketing piece. We go to agency periodically if we want, them to put a lens across something. So we're working with an agency at the minute that have done some work on gender-based violence specifically. So we've gone to them because we want to try and do something that resonates. But from a press point of view, we're really quite lucky. And we do take the opportunities. We did BBC Radio Manchester yesterday.
Yeah, how did it go okay?
So we do put ourselves... Yeah. I was just the teleprompter yesterday because I point blank refused to do it because I'm having a bit of a strap at work. And I just kept passing notes that said, "Don't say sausages." So I don't think I was that useful. But again, it's putting yourself in this position where you know you're going to get difficult questions. Then conversely, the value of being able to say your piece, I think makes a difference. And one of the things we need to get closer to is that community voice. So, but again, it's a resourcing issue. So if we work with local elected members, if we go to community groups, and we always do that reactively, so something will have happened and they'll want us to come. They're always blown away by the amount of work that we do because they don't know. And actually then the residents feel reassured. But then you see the narrative playing out on the community groups for the next 12 or 18 months when someone mentions something happened on the tram. Oh, well, they've got CCTV. Oh, well, you should have pressed the help point. So you end up getting this kind of catalyst of voices, but there's so many community groups. And again, it's resourcing, and there must be a better way to do some of that.
Okay. So, any changes that you've seen in the last year? Obviously, you've mentioned the media not being particularly positive or friendly towards it. But is there anything else that you think's driven that perception because if it's coming from non-transport users, what do you think? What's behind that?
But I think you've got to look at it's your point about lifting your head up. You've got to look at what's going on in the world as well.
Contextual stuff, yeah.
So when there's a lot more people struggling than they were previously. So we see little pockets of kind of inquisitive crime. People stealing phones and things like that. That kind of stuff increases, doesn't it, when people are desperate?
Yeah.
We've seen an increase in homelessness, and that there's a couple of things with homelessness. There's the perception it gives people of a place, which I know sounds awful, but it's true, because actually we for a long time tolerated it. So we don't lock any bus we didn't lock any bus stations at all overnight. So overnight you would get homeless people coming on. But they're still there in the morning when customers are coming on. But with that, you get the drug use. They set bins on fire to keep warm, the litter, that kind of thing. And then it's the broken window theory, isn't it? If a place looks unsafe because of the environment, then it feels unsafe. And actually, a lot of the issues with Piccadilly, everyone knows Piccadilly Gardens. It's kind of the dreaded place. People get stabbed there. Every month there's a stabbing, but it's always homeless on homeless crime. It's always drug-related homeless crime. It's not people being targeted, but from a perceptions point of view, someone's been stabbed at Piccadilly again, or someone's been stabbed at Market Street again. So you've got to look at the big societal issues, and then if we look at what Starmer's done around prison releases, because the prisons can't cope, we're bringing prisoners out earlier with no support when they come out, so they're going to end up homeless. So we're going to increase homelessness, but we're also going to increase offending because of the types of people we're tipping into homelessness. So because a lot of vulnerable people, a lot of lower income people rely on public transport, we are going to pick up the brunt of some of these issues, unfortunately. Which is why one of our tactics needs to be around the environment, the infrastructure, the target hardening. But again, it plays into being recognised as a community safety partnership to be able to leverage the support that we don't have for homelessness, for outreach, for charities, for prescriptions and beds and that kind of stuff. Because what we've found when we've gone hard with it, we get criticised for being uncaring. It's always that balance, isn't it? Of, well, you've got 50% of people go and deal with it.
Yeah.
Because you get the aggressive begging and everything else. And then you've got 50% of people go, well, why did you do that? Because that's not fair. That person's just keeping warm. And it balance all the time. And again, it's that perceptions and people's perceptions of us in terms of whether we're caring. Because if you speak to our Transport Commissioner, his first point is we care about your experience. So actually, how does that play in when we're going hard on a cohort of people that arguably are at the worst? So it's really tricky, really, really tricky. The other thing I was going to bring in was we see the same, but kind of escalating, I suppose is the wrong word, around the gender-based violence piece.
Right.
Because now that rock's been turned.
Yeah.
You know, that's had a massive impact on us. I've had another freedom of information request this morning because the press are all over it. They want to know how many incidents of sexual harassment have we had on the network, how many, you know, X, Y, and Z. And it's right that the rock's been turned, but it skews your figures, actually. Yeah. And what you report doesn't tend to be meaningful without the context, but the press tend to leave out context, don't they? So there's that kind of playing out as well, and that there's two things for us. There's the incidents piece and what we can do about it, and we know that women and girls feel less safe than everybody else, in fact, the perception. But there's also what's come with that is a massive distrust in policing, because a lot of it's been focused through Sarah Everard's murder, you know, and so then we've got, well, we need you to report your incidents to the police. Well, we don't trust the police. So then you're in this balance of, well, and this is why we've entered into this partnership with StrutSafe to try and put a different offer on the table, because there's too many now. There's too many apps that do various things for walking home, getting home, staying safe places. Too many, and none of them do everything. Because again, for transport, we need to cover everywhere. There's too many of these campaigns. Ask for Angela, ask for this. You know, people. There's just too much. So it's a bit messy, that space at the minute. But yeah, we've got to look at what are the social concerns, and at the minute we've got the gender-based violence piece. But you know, you could say 2 years ago it was knife crime.
Yeah.
So it just depends, doesn't it? It's always that balance of everything else that's going on.
Okay, so I've listed a few things that you've mentioned, but if you can be specific, because we've talked about aggressive begging, you've talked about, you know, incidents with weapons and knives, drug use, homelessness, violence, whether it's gender-based or women and girls. But do you know what passengers or those who aren't trusting to go on the public transport network, what they're calling out as their main concerns, being like really specific?
So I think there's two things. Main concern is the youth, ASB, right. That's the biggest driver. Okay. But what's playing into that, which again is interesting, is it's not a concern, it's more of an irritation. Okay. Smoking and vaping. And it's the hardest thing for us to deal with because we have no powers. But it's the thing that drives people to get in touch. It is the thing that winds people up. It is the thing that they comment on every time we put a campaign out. Well, what can you do about? Well, someone on my bus, you know, because it is antisocial. It's not just youth. And it's also quite a major catalyst for our staff being assaulted when they challenge it, because people do get really irritated by it. So in terms of top issues for us, it's the youth, and then it's the irritations. From a customer's point of view, it's the irritations, it's the smoking, the vaping, and it's probably on Metrolink a bit fare evasion, because people that pay for tickets really get irritated when people don't pay for tickets.
Right, yeah.
It's quite expensive, you know?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. And if we look at initiatives that you've put in place, in terms of things like StrutSafe, I know that's fairly early on, isn't it? But other interventions that you've put in, you know, up in the presence, more awareness campaigns, those kind of things. You know, how effective do you think they've been in addressing those particular concerns?
It's really difficult to quantify. So from a campaign point of view, probably over the last 12 months, we've got better at the always on stuff. And we've got 3 or 4 that you'll have seen. You know, help points on every stop, 5,000 hours of staff patrols, CCTV, those kind of things. Constant reminders for people that we do have safety kind of at the front of what we're doing. Yeah. If you look at the reach and everything else around campaign, it's good. You know, our comms team are very good at putting it in the right places in terms of who they're targeting. But what we've done, so I sent you the comms pack, didn't I? But they're putting together the next quarter's pack at the moment. So I did some analysis yesterday to go into that. which was the Youth ASB campaign, Don't Get Ghosted. And actually, last year's Ghosted campaign and this year's Ghosted campaign, figures of ASB are exactly the same, pretty much.
Right.
But we've put 60 more staff on the network.
Okay.
So actually you go, well, it should be higher. But again, that gives you a difficult... When you're trying to tell people, well, actually, it's really good that it's the same because it should be a lot higher. They go, well, shouldn't it go down?
Yeah.
Well, no, because, you know, it's comparing apples and pears, really. So that's a struggle. Yeah, I mean, but again, with the campaign and the materials that get developed, we take that into schools with us as well. So that forms part of our educational offer. But yeah, it can be difficult to get some of those comparisons because we keep changing things. There's no kind of static baseline to call off. And I think if I was to talk to you about the Women and Girls campaign last year, that fell... Well, it didn't fall flat. Because of the politics of the world we operate in, it got watered down. There was a bit of concern that it was too hard. So that didn't resonate with women that had been affected by this kind of stuff because we should have been going hard. What it did do, I think 90% of our comments were from angry men. So I think our comms team went, bloody hell, we need to keep doing this because look at all these comments, you know. And they were vile, some of the comments. They were, you know, we had a woman stood at a bus stop being wolf whistled and all the comments were like, I will wolf whistle her, she's ugly. And it's like, oh my God, you know. So I think the benefit was it demonstrated why we need to do this kind of campaign. But this year should go a bit harder because we need to be confident in our messaging. And I think that's the other bit from a Travel Safe point of view that allows us to divorce Travel Safe from the B Network and divorce Travel Safe from the GMCA in brand should allow us to be a bit more bold. So for instance, our campaign this year wasn't supposed to be ghosted. That's last year's campaign. It was supposed to be, it looked like someone had fly posted a stop and it said, don't be a, and it had the poo emoji, as in don't be a shit.
Yeah.
But the mayor said no. So it was just too much too soon, too hard a message. But that's the bit where you go, well, divorce Travel Safe then from your stuff. Keep it as a separate brand and then we can say what we want.
Yeah.
Because actually, that would have, people would have recognised, people would have noticed it because it was a bit bolder.
And did both those test well? Did you test them?
Yeah. It got almost there and it got pulled right at the wire. We were gutted. We were absolutely gutted. And that's why they needed to very quickly just put a new gloss over Ghosted and go out with it because we were too late to do anything else. You know, and he said it's not never, but not right now. But I think that would have given us much the opposite because it would have got interest from the press, and you know we could have done some stuff with it around the schools and the engagement piece, and it would have been really good. But it, as I said, because we are part of TFGM, because we are part of the GMCA, the messaging can be a bit more reserved, I think.
Okay. Interesting. So you've talked a little bit about stuff outside of safety measures and things, activities that you're doing. But are there any other thing, and the environment and infrastructure, is there any other factors that you think are influencing perceptions? We've spoken about the media, so I've taken up. So, and I'm talking about, you know, technology, anything that's going on within their world that we think actually means they think differently.
Yeah, so I was doing some thinking yesterday, actually. Let me see if I can find it, because I did. So I think we've got a couple of things. So we've got intelligence, which is where your kind of data and analysis comes in, and we're really well supported at TFGM with that. We've got a team of analysts and they'll spin me anything. So I've asked them this morning about the harassment piece. I can give them time periods. They did the campaign analysis for us. They can drill down to areas and you know, we've got some really good analysis data that helps inform where we go, where we need to prioritise. But some of that, a lot of that, is fed by reporting. So actually what fails us at the minute is customers understanding how and where to report things, because they don't. So a really live piece of work at the minute, we launched GMP's live chat. The day we went into COVID lockdown was supposed to be the press card. So we kind of launched it low-key, and it goes out now periodically when we do campaign, and we see an uptick in reporting at that point, and then it falls off a cliff again. So we're trying to get that out as part of the standard delivery. So we've got standard safe delivery that's got to go on all the buses, all the trams, you know, emergency exits, whatever it might be. So we're trying to get that, and it's happening, but it's slow because it's time consuming and expensive. So it's on all the night bus fleet, for instance. Every seat's got a QR code and you can report. And we get data out the back end of that from GMP as well. So we need to really do some work on that. And I think from a public point of view, that whole reporting an incident bit is really confusing. So they don't know how to do it, who to tell, you know. So I'll get an email in my inbox and it'll be a really serious offence and it's just come to me, and I'm thinking, well, you know, you need to tell the police. But also it's things like the help points we've got on stops, and are they working, and who answers them, and all of that type of stuff needs to be built into that reporting bit. So there's work to do definitely on that, because that's the first thing people will tell you is, oh, I didn't know about that. And when they say, you know, we feel really isolated on the tram because we can't speak to the driver, well, you can. You just press the button, speak to the driver.
Yeah.
In the same way that you'd speak to a bus driver, it's just that the vehicle is built differently. But that's kind of an intel reporting aspect, and there's crossovers in all of this, so it's not quite linear. Then we've got kind of a whole toolbox of operational tactics. So we do twice a week formal operations where we'll all come out together. So we'll come out, it'll be the police, it'll be Metrolink, it'll be TFGM, it'll be Foundation 92, it'll be whoever we need, you know, depending on where we're going, and we'll all come out together. And it's a bit of it's a problem solving thing. So we're there to address an issue, but we'll also do some social media around it.
Yeah.
To kind of keep that ticking, to keep people seeing that we're out and we're working, and to get people to know the brand and the fact that there is a safety kind of operation around transport. Separately to that, you've got your business as usual patrols. So I've got 60 travel safe support and enforcement officers that work 24/7 now, actually, across the bus network. Metrolink have got 50 travel safe officers that just do security on Metrolink, but they've also got 150 revenue inspectors that are out and working. And comparing that to last year, I didn't have any, and Metrolink have uplifted theirs by about 70. So the frontline offer is much bigger, and we know that matters to people. We can't put staff on every vehicle; it wouldn't be proportionate. But you know, we've increased what we can do, and we need to deploy those staff based on where we know we've got issues. So that's where your intelligence bit comes in. And obviously we've got the police as well. So we've got 53-ish PCs. They work on geographical focused areas, which means they can carry the problem solving bits, you know, if they've got known nominals or whatever. So we've got quite a good core of regular patrolling. But then from a tactics point of view, the transport unit are trained in behavioural detection. So they do that kind of, does someone look dodgy, I suppose. They've got a load of different toys, knife arches that we funded for them. They can access the drone. We've used that a couple of times in more remote areas. We've just bought our own drone, actually. So that's a new one for us. The dogs are brilliant because actually people love them. They do a great job, but people love them as well. So they're kind of a softer enforcement. Not the German Shepherds, not the Land Sharks. We don't put them out on the tram, just the Spaniels. But yeah, they can access different areas of the kind of specialist operations capability. So, when we do the big operations, we bring the tactical aid unit out, so the big lads in the boiler suits. But again, and you think, is it going to make people feel frightened? But people love talking to them. Oh, what are we doing here today? Can I walk through your knife arch? So the kind of law-abiding core really like it.
Yeah.
And obviously it's got the benefits for the people that are there and that are apprehended. So there's that as well. And I think just because of kind of wider bits that are going on with us at the minute, it's probably worth saying, looking at the resourcing that we've got. So we've got Tom and Foundation 92, they do our youth ASB, right? So a couple of years ago, we realised our staff aren't trained in working with young people. A lot of them can't remember being young. I mean, that as well, so it's not a derogatory thing. But you forget, don't you, what it's like. And a lot of the antisocial behaviour we get is thoughtlessness, it's giddiness, it's, you need to understand how other people perceive you if you're in a group of 15 and you're all being loud, and that bit, and actually plugging a gap of what's available post-COVID. Things have shut, they've got now to do, right? So that's why we brought in Foundation 92 and Tom. And they deploy on their own. We don't always deploy them together with everything. It depends what suits. And the other benefit with them is they're not in uniform. So they're not seen as an authoritative presence. So there's that. Then we've got our security, for want of a better term. So they will deal with your low-level ASB. They're the ones that should be tackling your smoking, your vaping, your that kind of stuff. And then you've got your crime, and that's where the police come in. So actually, we've tried to
layer it.
We try to protect our policing resource so that they're not consumed in stuff that arguably isn't for policing, and they can deal with the bigger issues that we've got, which has worked really well. We did an op last week. Metrolink are doing ticket checks. Oh God, I've just looked down and next door's cat's in the house. How rude.
Get your robot vac on it soon.
Nanos. So they did not last week. Metrolink are checking tickets. Police don't do fare evasion for us. They use it as a tactic. Fella gets off the tram and he's 3 times wanted for burglaries.